Hey everybody, we have a special guest. He's going to blow your mind as usual. This is going to be a podcast probably like no other because of what we're about to tackle. So get ready. Let's jump in to the Jack Hibbs podcast right now.
Real Life presents the Jack Hibbs podcast with intention and boldness to proclaim truth, equip the saints, and impact our culture. Today, if this podcast lifts you up and encourages you to live a more fulfilled life in Christ, then make sure you leave us one of those 5-star ratings. To us, that's like saying amen or yes. Then that rating will encourage others to listen. Now open your hearts to what God's Word has to say to you. Here is Jack Hibbs.
Well, everybody, welcome back to the Jack Hibbs podcast. We are excited and thrilled to not only have a friend with us, but a man that needs no introduction, literally. God has been using this guy tremendously. I think we were talking a moment ago that ever since 2020, when we first met, we have just watched this young man's career explode, and for good reason, because I believe, without exaggeration, we have a national treasure in our midst. And I don't want to embarrass him, but please welcome Charlie Kirk,
Jack,
brother.
You're a great friend.
So great to be with you.
Thank you, and thanks for all that you've done for me throughout the years. And every week I'm watching Jack Hibbs preach the word. And every week you're in the pulpit.
It is so encouraging for you to send me. He will send me a text saying, Eric and I are watching. And
listen to the podcast too.
I love it. I love it. I do the same. How often? I think I get a hold of you quite often and say,
you know what?
Charlie.
It is so encouraging. And my favorite is when you're using Siri to text.
Oh gosh, why? Because what's being...
The inaccuracies of the text are very fun.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But no, I love it. It says, Charlie, I'm on my way to LA listening to you on radio. And you know how encouraging it is for a radio guy? I'm just like, wow, someone is listening.
Oh, come on.
No, because on TV, radio, people are in their cars, so you don't get feedback as much because people are busy. So it's always nice to know that.
Awesome.
At least I got a Jack Hibbs.
Oh my goodness, always. It's awesome. So, okay, let's just dive into this. Sorry, but I kind of almost maybe want to...
You want to do the hand thing?
Ask you about how did you get in contact, or who with what, Gavin Newsom? That remarkable podcast.
Thank you, and thank you, by the way, for covering it in prayer. It was a difficult project, and I'll explain why. For multiple reasons. But first, he reached out to me. He reached out through Kimberly Guilfoyle, his ex-wife, and Kimberly's in Trump world, and is Trump's pick to be ambassador to Greece.
Yes.
And I kind of thought this was a joke at first, and he reached out, like, hey, Charlie, I'm a big, follower.
Batman voice.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, I'm doing a podcast. Would love to have you come on. I was like, yeah, sure. Don't you have a state to run? It's like the first thing I said to him.
He doesn't.
Apparently not. And he was like, look, I want to learn from you. No BS, no tricks. I said, okay, fine. So I was his first invited guest.
Yes.
We made the decision to actually go in person. I'm glad we made that decision.
Absolutely.
It's just so much different than looking just through a screen. And he was like, look, I want to try to learn from you, pick your brain. It was difficult because I wanted to be more aggressive, but when he's, throwing praise on you, even though it's all fake and flattery and slippery deceit.
Optics look bad if you went in the tech.
Exactly. So I think, pressed him.
Yes, you did.
And I tried to do it in a way that would please the Lord, in a way that was full of truth and grace. I wish I would have had a venue to even more prosecute the case of California, but understand, it is a national audience. It's not just about California. So it was a great opportunity. He looked like a fool. He got himself in a lot of trouble on a lot of different circumstances.
Yeah, he did.
And so it was, and also I defended the Lord's name.
Yes, you did. I think 3 or 4 times you did.
That's correct.
Which was awesome. I know this almost, and we can move on from him in a moment.
No, I'm happy to chat about it.
But let me play devil's advocate. You've heard this probably 1,000 times. He upset his base. But push comes to shove, at the end of the day, there are always going to be Gavin Newsom fans no matter what they say. So do you think it's his attempt to optically move toward the middle for whatever his political pursuits might be?
Without a doubt. I think this whole project is that he knows that people classify him as a very radical California governor, and he wants to try to moderate himself in the views of American voters. The Democrat Party, though, wants nothing to do with any form of moderation.
That's right.
And that's what I consider to be the singular great success of our dialogue, is that I pressed him, I said, well, why don't you stand up on this issue of biological men that are winning women's trophies? And he was like, oh, well, I do agree with you. It's an issue of fairness, and I think it's unfair. Well, he's such obviously a hypocrite and a liar, because that biological man is about to win the state championship right now in the long jump here in this state of California, and he's done nothing about it. So it's all just rhetorical nonsense from him, trying to win over political favor. The Gavin Newsom experiment is going to be really interesting to see where the state of the Democrat Party actually is.
Yeah, true.
Because they should moderate on some of these issues. They should come towards common sense on it. I don't think they will, though. I think they're so married to their base on these fundamental issues of open borders and defund the police and rioting and arson and crime and shutting down schools and vaccine mandates, and then, of course, the men and female sports. And if he even went away from it on a minute level, and if I had more time with him, I would have added and prosecuted the case that whether he realizes or not, that he is held captive to a pagan religion.
That's right.
That is the Democrat Party.
That's right.
And this is what drives me nuts when pastors are indifferent about getting involved in politics. Politics is merely a manifestation of a spiritual battle. Right on. And I know you and I will just dialogue about this further, that there's really two worldviews. There's one where you believe in Genesis 1:1, God created the heavens and the earth, in the beginning God created everything, or one that is a manifestation of the pagan river civilizations of old. Atheism really is just a small fringe. There's very few people that believe in no God. There is a God that fills that void.
That's right.
The God of narcissism, the God of anti-racism, the God of pleasure, the God of stuff. And the Democrat Party is the placeholder of modern day paganism.
So true. More than ever, would you agree, more than ever? Now look, I'm old enough to be your dad, so for as long as I've been alive, I have never seen it so black and white, so divided, so crystal clear that it's no longer there for someone to say, well, you know, I'm a Democrat, but I'm definitely more like a JFK Democrat. No, you're not. You can't be.
Correct.
You can't be, because JFK, if he were back today, they'd throw him out.
Well,
they are so radical now.
Look at Bobby Kennedy. I mean,
this is true. Bobby, right? Tulsi.
Bobby basically has the views of his father and his uncle. And now he's Trump's HHS secretary, and I think he's doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what in the world, Charlie, is going on? You're all over the U.S., campuses, your crowds. Where were you? Oh my goodness, you were in Knoxville recently, which freaked me out because I was getting, Andrew, somebody sent me, Mikey, somebody sent me photos of you in the crowd, and I was just so elated to see this going on in Knoxville. What's happening? What in the world is going on with the young people in America right now?
Boy, well, first, what happened in the election was profound. Younger people moved significantly more in the conservative Trump direction than older voters did. Actually, older voters moved a couple points towards Kamala Harris. Younger voters moved significantly towards Donald Trump. This is data that Ezra Klein and David Shore have actually built out, and we've been profiling that on our podcast, on our show. Yep. They're both lefties. They're not one of us, but they're looking at the data, and they're doing an autopsy. The data is so clear and so dramatic that if you find a 20-year-old man, he is on average far more conservative than his grandfather. That's never happened in my lifetime. It's never happened even since Reagan. So Reagan, we had the kids that were pretty conservative, the parents were even more conservative. Never had we had it where the 20-year-old is more conservative than his grandfather. There's a lot of reasons for this. Number one, where they get their information. Now, I'm not here to attack all boomers, but if you're 75, you get information from CNN or NBC or ABC or the New York Times. You consume through these media networks that are completely dishonest and full of hackery. Whereas a 20-year-old, they're getting news from the Charlie Kirk show or from the Megyn Kelly show or from TikTok or from Instagram or Joe Rogan. They're getting it in these decentralized ways. And it is a beautiful thing. And even more so, that's really exciting from a religious Christian perspective, is that during COVID, we saw a deep deacceleration of the church. We saw a lot of people walk away from the church. Thankfully, praise God, the New York Times had to publish a story that's actually plateaued. It's gone up a little bit. Yeah, church attendance is going up a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not a lot.
But hey, it's a pull up of the nose.
It's being driven by one demographic, men under 30. Men under 30 are flocking to the church in record numbers that are just flummoxing the experts. They can't believe it. And we see it on these campuses, Jack. There is an appetite. There's a desire for truth. We believe this generation has been just suffocating in the lies of modernity, which we believe to be secularism, which is against God's will and God's plan for our life. And what we're seeing on these campuses, again, it all comes back to spiritual truths.
Exactly right.
And I am first and foremost a Christian and a follower of Jesus. Yep. My profession, though, is to try to fight for the best political system, but I'm unafraid to talk about matters of spirituality and abortion, and those always come up. And that's the key, is that eventually the person will come up to the microphone and they'll ask a question about ultimate truth and ultimate principles. And there is a revival waiting to happen right now. And I wish more churches and pastors were like yourself, waiting to receive them.
Well, honestly, without boasting, I'm announcing I wish other pastors would for this one reason. Why should we have all the blessings?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are running out of parking spots.
We're out of parking spots. God is blessing overwhelming. We're creating ministries to reach the world more and more.
And you're doing an amazing job.
And that's just what's blowing our minds. We had 2 board meetings in the last 2 days where we just had to sit down and almost just shout and be overwhelmed to the point of almost laughter, where what in the world is going on, where God is doing stuff. We need more pastors to take a stand, and you said it at the beginning, and you just said it again, and that is this: you cannot parse out the secular from the sacred. There's no such thing that exists. To God, it is all sacred, and He goes into the world of what man calls secular. And what He's doing right now is He's waking young people up to pursue truth. They may not be saying, I feel God in my life. That may not be happening that way, but they may be thinking, I've been lied to. I don't like the way this is going. Who can I trust these days? And they're en route. I think, Charlie, now I'm not a prophet, I'm just hoping, with what these young people are now questioning and pursuing, i.e., they're looking to you. They're coming in droves, they're gathering by the tens of thousands to hear what you have to say. It may be that the spiritual revival is about to happen. We have certainly seen, can I put it this way, a political revival in America.
That's right.
We're seeing this with Trump and his policies. Our hope is that there'll be a spiritual revival within the church, because I'm a little bit concerned where men like Elon Musk get more persecution than the pastor.
That's right. And I think that's right. And to Elon's credit, he has publicly been saying that if the West is no longer Christian,